Our goal from the very beginning was to create web experience for our attendees, but it's supposed to be only, let's say, the homepage for your event.
Hello, all you event planning friends and future friends. Welcome to another episode. It's going to be a great one. This week, we have the founder and creator of Eventee, Roman, who is going to share with us some of his experiences and how the platform came about and how it's evolved during COVID. So, with that, welcome to you, Roman.
Hello, everyone.
So, you know,
Thank you, Joe. It's a pleasure to be here.
great. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. I would love to start out with a simple question. Can you explain in 5 career moves or less how you got to where you are now?
Well, it's on one side it's quite easy. On the other side, it was quite a journey. Maybe let me start with my studies. I study university with aim to business management. And one day we were chatting with my friend who was studying technology university. And we somehow agreed together that we try to start with our own digital agency. We started developing mobile applications for iPhone. It was like 2009 when we did our very first application. And very soonish after that, first client came in, and we decided that maybe we should try that still during the studies. Um, and till today, we developed over 60 applications. But it's 5 years ago when we tried to do a PR stunt on one of the biggest tech event in Czech Republic. And that PR stunt was actually Eventee. It was just very simple application for event attendees and event organizers to stay in connection with attendees. Um, it was actually event made by one of the NGO organizations. So the whole event was free for at least 2,000 attendees. So they didn't have any budget. That's why we developed this PR stunt to promote our main business. But it went so well that we decided to continue with the development. There was a huge success from the side of attendees. They really loved the application. Also from the event organizers, we received a great feedback, and it was a huge coincidence that I think it was in less than a week another event from Prague, from capital of Czech Republic. Um, they contacted me that they would like to use our application at their event. So that was probably the first uh, call to action, or how to call it, to continue with this project. And after some years, we decided that as Eventee grows, we decided that we would like to put more energy into it. In 2018, we won a small government competition, and we were sent to New York to Business Accelerator Venture Out, where we learned quite a lot and pushed Eventee much more forward. Um, and in 2019, we actually closed the digital agency and we fully focused only on the Eventee. So now this is our full-time job, and we actually almost finally do what we love, because it's much better to work on your own project rather than project of other clients.
Very true, very true. Well, and you're in an interesting spot, where you're working for a much broader set of clients now, I guess, in some regards. All of us who use your app are your clients. So you're in some ways more consumer facing, I would say. Interesting. So you started out in mobile events applications. Um, would you say that at least up until 2019, 2020, probably actually, did mobile kind of drive Eventee until all of us were stuck at home? Is that fair to say?
Yes. Eventee was the core of the functionality back then was just the mobile application. Every single feature was built around agenda, because we learned that, let's say, 80% of all attendees, all they want to have is just very simple and easy to understand agenda. And then almost anything else is just extra feature. So we built as simple as possible agenda. And at the same time, we developed the application for in-person events. So that's the core of the mobile application. And yeah, that was the main functionality.
Yeah. And so I noticed in the roadmap, 2020 saw a lot of shift, it seemed like, towards being more inclusive of the web end of it. So for your laptop or computer or whatever. Um, do you think that's here to stay? I mean, it feels like there's a lot of thought that you guys are giving to more of these virtual events or digital events, and I could see that still being useful in hybrid events too. Are you guys kind of thinking in that?
Mhm.
Uh,
This is very good question and require a very complex answer. I think that digital events will stay with us forever, and it will be much more common to do more digital events. But I do not believe that those in-person events, rather big or small, will go away. I'm chatting every single day and week with our previous customers who did huge amount of events in last years, and even with their attendees, and everyone is looking forward to again start with in-person event. It's like the bright side of virtual event is that it's, let's say, maybe cheaper to start with. You don't need to have such a huge assets, you don't need huge venues and so on. It's much more convenient, let's say, easier for you to start with. But there is something about the in-person events you cannot, how to say that, you cannot easily, uh, I'm missing the word,
replicate?
do with yes, thank you, replicate with virtual events, like the personal connection, um, and those after parties and the ability to chat in person with the speaker. I remember when there was some really famous speaker, and I got a chance to talk with him in person. My heartbeat just raised up. My hands were sweating, when I was trying to meet with him in person. That's the experience I'm missing. Um, so I think that both kinds of events will stay with us forever. Those main events will go back to in-person uh, events as soon as possible. But you mentioned hybrid events, and I think that that may be the way to go, because many of those traditional events organizers, they realize that this may be a huge opportunity for them to raise revenue or increase their revenue, because there is so many other attendees who are not able to apply or come to the event.
Yeah.
So you can combine both, like the in-person one, and then stream everything directly to other attendees from other cities and other countries all around the globe.
Yeah, yeah, that's
So
true.
yeah, that's my opinion.
No, I totally agree. And I asked that partially because selfishly, I'm starting to do hybrid events again. And obviously, fully digital virtual events are a real revenue driver at the moment in my business. So I think, the main thing that's missing, kind of what you alluded to, it's that networking, whether it's with the keynote speaker or with other attendees. And I know on your roadmap, correct me if I'm wrong, somewhere on there was a note about uh, networking feature getting added to web. I can't remember if that's in the to-do list or.
Yes, that's correct. That's correct. It's already done. It's in very late phase of testing. It should be released like this week.
Oh wow.
So yeah, you are correct.
Yeah, I mean, I think
Um,
I think that's a real differentiator for you guys. That's just my personal opinion, but I think I used 82 platforms last year with clients.
oh,
Yeah, yeah. I saw an article.
that's quite a lot.
I saw an article in late November that said there were 182 platforms for virtual events. Um, so it's amazing. I suspect there are more than that, but the ones that do it well. Here's what, maybe you could tell me if I'm wrong. Ones that just cropped up during COVID seem to be more focused on the web interface, and some of them don't even really have an app or it's not highly functional. And then there are others like you who have a lot of experience. And your applications, almost all of them started as web app, or I'm sorry, as phone applications, and they're moving to web and adding new features. But it looked to me like you guys already had a lot of features that some of the platforms I've seen did not have. For instance, I won't name any names, but there was one that did start much like you as an agenda application, and they never grew out of it. And so what they did was they added a place for you to insert either a live stream link or a Zoom link or whatever the case may be. And it was just no frills, kind of what you described as your initial start. Let's keep it basic, just the agenda. That's what people need when they're in person. Um, do you think those are kind of the two ways that these platforms are developing? Do you think there will be another way? Do you think there are kind of other things that you would see coming out of this versus steering to one way or to the other?
That's that's again a very complex question. I think it really depends because what we are not trying to be with Eventee is another Zoom or Google Meet or the core functionality of Eventee probably is not the virtual event, not the virtual event, but this, we are not trying to be the streaming platform
Yeah.
like the YouTube, Vimeo, Twitch, and so on. So you always will need some partner or some integration which will help you to stream the content. But I'm just thinking how to move around this question. It's like when I take a look back in 2020 at the very beginning, our roadmap was stacked with all the cool features for the mobile application because the focus was at the engagement during the event. And our goal from the very beginning was to create web experience for our attendees, but it's supposed to be only, let's say, the homepage for your event. But because of the COVID, of course, we decided to extend the functionality and add the like we try to match the functionality of the mobile application with the web version of Eventee. And I think it was the right move even without the COVID situation, because now I see all the other possibilities you can do with virtual event experience. It may be like evergreen events we never thought about. It could be, for example, you can create video lecture with Eventee, for example. Things like that I never thought about would be possible. And the use cases of similar platforms are much bigger than we ever thought about. So it somehow enlightened me. Now I know more and uh, uh, how to describe that. Um, I know that Eventee could be even better than we thought before. That's the point I'm trying to make. But to be honest, be able to focus on just one feature at a time, it's much easier.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and you're trying to do it on for Android, Apple, and for the web. So I'm sure that's slightly more complicated. So, eh, if we could go back to the roadmap, one thing that I've been very impressed with as you've pivoted is just how quickly you focused in on things. For instance, I know I've spoken with you about VIP events and those kind of groupings, and I'm really looking forward to that. Has this situation that we're currently in with lockdowns and all, has it helped you guys focus in on like how those things structure? For me, the VIP having only certain attendees attend certain modules or certain sessions is an outgrowth of what clients have asked for. So I'm wondering if there are a lot of those things that you guys are hearing too, outside of just the VIP. But for instance, you guys added this, what is it, the sponsor and the exhibitor, which was huge. I showed a client that, and they're like, "That's all we wanted last year was some way to actually highlight our sponsors," and that's a really big deal. So, are there some of those kind of threads or things that you're seeing repeatedly, not so much as a novel use case, but recurring requests or groups of things that planners and purchasers want?
Yes, it's always the case. It's very difficult to um, manage all those requests because, of course, you can imagine that we already made our mind. We have our existing roadmap, and it's very difficult to switch between tasks. But we try to listen carefully to our customers and see where the current trend is. Of course, you need to manage all those features based on um, the total amount of requests you received, how expensive for you eventually would be the development of this feature, what's the opportunity for you, will we get more customers and clients thanks to this feature, yes or not, things like that. That's all you need to consider. But uh, basically, you are correct. We try to listen and we keep adding features from our customers and maybe future customers, let's say trial users. Um, and we try to rearrange the roadmap every quarter. We try to see what we already have done, what's the response from our users, and what's supposed to be next amount of features. For example, the most repeating one was, let's say, the networking for the web. I
Yeah.
fully understand why. Um, Even without such a request, we knew that we have to have full parity of features between the mobile application and the web version. So that's something we were working on for a very long time. It's ready to be released finally, and things like that. Also the partners. Um, and you also need to think about thing that you may have a feature like the partners and sponsors, and you have this huge idea on mind that you would like to develop this castle in the clouds, but you need to move step by step. So for now, we developed option to promote those partners so they are visible at your web page and so on. You can create a full description of the partner, and in the future we plan to allow partners to be connected directly via networking once the networking is done. So imagine that you will be a user of Eventee as a partner, and when some other user attendee would like to get connected with you, all he needs to do is just via networking hit the button and he can have one-to-one chat with you via our video service. So that's a functionality we have on mind, but we didn't want to postpone the whole functionality. We released the first part, and in the future we will be continue with we will continue with the development.
Yeah, I think that was a very smart approach. I'm biased. I love your product. Thank you so much. And before we go, I I know that there's a SpaceX story that I'm dying to hear more about. So could you tell us a little more about how SpaceX came to use Eventee in December of 2019, I think?
Yes, it's quite a story. It's not as good as I would wish it would be, but there is a customer from I think it was from Malaysia, a customer of us and at the same time of SpaceX. They created a new satellite to broadcast a TV signal across the northern hemisphere, and they used SpaceX to launch the satellite, and they used at the same time Eventee to create the whole agenda of the launch for their management. Every single event they had with basically with the SpaceX. So it was used during the SpaceX at the SpaceX compound, but not by SpaceX, sadly. So that was awesome because we of course saw suddenly in our database that there is some SpaceX related event and so on, and we were surprised. And when we dig deeper, we found that it's customer of SpaceX. So it's still cool enough for me.
Yeah, yeah, it's still pretty cool. I like that. Man, that's yeah, that's a wonderful um feather to have in your cap. Thinking through everything that we've spoken about, what would you suggest are three books that event planners who are watching this could read to be more informed on digital events and platforms and some best practices or thoughts, or how do they get in the headspace of someone designing one of these digital platforms? How do they understand what's really involved when they're asking, can't you just add this? Which I know I'm guilty of.
Um, well, I was looking into my book database I read throughout last years and months, and there are, let's say, three books I really loved overall. One of them is all about marketing management, because every single event manager um, supposed to have attendees at this event. So I think that this is a really great book about how to promote your web page, product, event. And name of the book is Traction. It's by Gabriel Weinberg and Justin Mars. Uh, this was probably one of the best marketing book I read ever. It's full of case studies. I loved it. It was about case studies from HubSpot and other big companies, the strategies they were doing. We using a lot of those in Eventee, and it's working great. So I fully recommend this book. The second one is all about time management, because I think that every single event manager should be able to properly manage his time. And the book I love, and I'm using this method till today, is Bullet Journal from Ryder Carroll. Um, I love it. This book literally changed the way I'm doing my tasks, and I'm definitely much more productive since then. I'm more the creative guy rather than systematic guy, and this definitely helped me to keep everything um, on my piece of on my blog, all the tasks. And the last one is all about psychology and how to understand your customers, users, attendees, and so on. And that's book from Dan Ariely. It's called Irrational, Predictably Irrational. And I love this book so much. It can help you to understand how your customers thinks about your product, was the common behavior, and things like that, how to discount things. This is a really, really, really great book. It's quite old, but it's still current. Like the content is still functional. So I do recommend those three books.
Nice. Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing those insights. For those of you watching, please join us next Thursday. We'll have a new episode every Thursday. For those of you who are using Zoom as part of your process, whether it's in a wrapper like Eventee or as a standalone for meetings, there's actually a link to the checklist that I use for all Zoom events and webinars down in the description. So feel free to grab that and use it to make your events better. And with that, thank you, and we'll see you next week.